year is 2008 and Tony Stark uses the LG VX 9400, that flippy screen job, to communicate to Obadiah Stane that the Jericho missile pitch went really well in the first Iron Man movie. LG then sets off on a path of complete mobile industry domination and is mentioned in the same breath as Apple with regards to impact on the mobile device industry. I wish it worked out that way. LG released the first G series device way back in 2012 with the Optimus G. That formed the foundation for the popular Nexus 4, and LG then went on to establish many of the smartphone trends you know and love today. Tap to wake, removing the hardware buttons from the front face of the device, 24-bit 192 kHz audio, 18:9 aspect ratio, ultra-wide cameras, AI optimizations. All of that debuted on a G series device, and nobody told us that the G8X ThinQ would be the last of the Gs. And that's a pity, because this really isn't LG's best work. But I really expected more from a G series swan song. Last year, I praised the G8S ThinQ as the best Android phone money could buy. That was because of its price to performance ratio, which was just above anything else on the market. And its actually useful gimmicks, like that Z-Cam front-facing time of flight sensor, which enabled all that awesome face unlock and the hand gestures and all those sorts of things. And that's kind of the point. The G8 and the G8S offered users no less than 3 secure ways to unlock the phone. You had Face ID, Hand ID, and a fingerprint sensor on the back. The G8X ThinQ is the odd one out in the G8 family because it lacks the rear-mounted fingerprint sensor and the front-facing time-of-flight sensor. The only way you're unlocking the G8X ThinQ with biometrics is by using the not very good in-screen optical fingerprint sensor, which is only a tiny little bit better than the one Nokia puts in the 9 PureView, and that is trash. Thankfully, there's the return of the quad back with the adaptive headphone amp, which was omitted from the G8S ThinQ, which was also the only true deficiency I found on that phone. So what do you get for this trade-off? A fancy little dual screen attachment, which is as frustrating as it is useful to use. Need an external game controller? LG has you covered. Need a stand while you're watching Netflix or YouTube? LG's got you covered. But the dual screen suffers from way too many phantom touches and other little gremlins to ever be super useful. Also, it does this weird thing where it turns itself on even though you've purposefully turned it off, and then once it's on, and thanks to all of those little gremlins and phantom touches, when it's down like this in stand mode, it's way too unstable and has way too much access to all of your actual work things like your email and those things to be trusted. My biggest gripe though is that the marketing suggests that this is a true dual screen experience where you seamlessly just flick apps with 3 finger gestures over onto the second screen, and you turn it into like a laptop mode and the keyboard magically appears at the bottom, and it just really isn't that way. If you're busy with an app like this and then you just try and move it into landscape and hoping that any of those things that it's supposed to do is going to happen, it just doesn't happen half of the time, and it just completely freaks out. Now, I am hoping that LG has learned from this experience and made it better on the Velvet and the V60, but right now I find it really hard to recommend this as a purchasable item. Talking about Velvet and V60, like there I can see it being hella useful as like an awesome electronic notebook, because those two phones offer active stylus support, but that's missing here. So you're missing like those key functions that can really elevate this dual screen experience. Using the G8X without the dual screen attachment is just a slightly bigger G8S ThinQ with slightly quieter stereo speakers and no face unlock. There's also no telephoto lens on the back, but that is really not a problem, especially since most of the telephoto pictures that you're taking anyway are just cropping into your main sensor unless you're in absolutely perfect lighting conditions. New front facing camera, new 32 megapixel sensor that pixel bins down to 8 megapixels, and it is now 4K capable. And it is not that good. This is a good camera situation to be in. It handles colors well. It has charming restraint from that unicorn puke HDR, and like I said in my G8S review, you can finally leave auto HDR on all the time on LG devices. I'm gonna level with you. I can deal with the dual screen gimmickry because I know that Google is optimizing Android so that it can work with the forthcoming Microsoft Surface Duo. The dual screen is also offered as a freebie in most of the G8X listings that I've seen. I'll link them down below. And extra value for free is never bad. The beefy battery, the Snapdragon 855 chipset, the Adreno graphics, these are all specs that are still relevant today and will still run rings around what its competitors are bringing out. The OLED screen is also pin sharp, even at 1080p, but one of the biggest drags is that we're way past halfway through 2020 and there's still no Android 10 on this device in our market. And now, to add insult to software injury, rumor has it, or at least LG put out a small statement saying that they're going to be updating all of the legacy devices with the Velvet UI, so that probably means an even longer wait for Android 10 on this device. This is not the behavior that I expect from the device manufacturer that gave Tony Stark his first phone. This is the sort of thing that I maybe will tolerate from a cheaper Chinese manufacturer. But that's kind of half of the problem that LG has with its mobile division right now. The other half is just pure marketing. I still stand by my 2019 recommendation of the G8X ThinQ. That is still a killer flagship phone. And the G8X ThinQ is a very nice phone, but I think it misses the mark as an LG flagship that I've come to know and trust and love. Breaking away from the signature traits of the G8 family line has sent this thing down this weird dual screen path that I'm not really willing to follow it on. The dual screen experiment may still pay off, especially with that Surface Duo incoming. But for your money, I don't think you should be a beta tester for the gimmicks that LG is trying to spit out here. But that's just my opinion. I'm Lindsay. Check you in the next one.